You're watching the Desert Moon Hockey Podcast with Matt and Rich. Welcome back to episode 13 of the Desert Moon Hockey Podcast. I am surprised we've made it this long, but we're on to lucky number 13. And today we are a little bit slower on topics here. We have a couple of trade proposals because we love doing them. So we have a few more. We are going to be talking contracts and what RFAs are really going to look like, and maybe a few UFAs that'll stay around, what those numbers may be. There was also potentially we were going to talk about top 10 prospects, but I don't know if that's going to make its way to the show today, but that's
I'll go ahead and just cut you off there.
Oh.
That's my topic. That goes on AZ Sports Guy, not
Okay.
this stupid Desert Moon. I'm kidding. I'm joking. Anyway, so let's have us a little bit of fun on lucky number 13. The dogs are throwing up over here, so I'm locked in the office pretending that doesn't exist. So there's this trade proposal on Twitter. It's the Locked On Senators podcast. No affiliation or anything. Just I saw this and I absolutely had to talk about it because I like so much of this, and it's one of those things where same mindset with any of these other chicken proposals. Everything is in isolation. It's in a bubble. I'm not comparing X deal to Y deal. I'm just, if this is what's on the table, here's my reaction. So that's the lens we're going through here. And I really want to see Richie's live reaction to this. I texted him it last night or the other night, and I want to see your live reaction. So, pull up the trade right here. To Ottawa. One, Nick Schmaltz, 4 years remaining at $5.85 million cap hit. I think the salary with bonuses is, somewhere around $8 million a year. And the Colorado first, which at this point in this context, kind of worthless. It's 31st or 32nd overall. For Nikita Zaitsev, only 2 more years, $4.5 million. And the 7th overall draft selection. And if you've been watching this podcast for a while, you know I really want the Coyotes to find a way to get a second top 10 pick, because there is just a lot of really, really good young talent in the top 10 this year that I'm saying yes almost exclusively because, wow, we can actually get back into the top 10. You get out from it gives you some cap flexibility in a couple of years. The only real downside is Nick Schmaltz and Clayton Keller's ridiculous amount of chemistry together, but as we'll talk about a little bit more throughout, we do have a couple of minor nitpicks on that. So my reaction is I'm going for it for the top 10 pick. Richie, give me everything.
So this is a tough one to me because I think I obviously everyone's biased about their players and they overvalue a bit. I really like Nick Schmaltz on the Coyotes, and that's super difficult to me because the thing is, if you can somehow get into the 7th overall and potentially draft Cutter Gauthier, I think that would be a huge win for the Coyotes. And as crappy as it does seem to lose Nick Schmaltz, you said it was for 3 more years for his contract, right?
4 more years for Schmaltzy, only 2 years on Zaitsev.
Okay. So, yeah, him being 26, he's starting to get a little bit older. He's out of that age group that we'd be looking at for this team. You know, anyone, I've said this a bit, anyone under the age of like 22 to 23 and younger, stays. But if you're older than that, like, your risk of being traded is very serious. And, he's 26, so it makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. I hate to see Schmaltz go. I think that he played some of his best hockey that I've seen so far, which was last season. But if you can pick up another young, promising asset to line up with that timeline that they're looking at, lining up with, it makes a lot of sense. And I think looking at it both ways, I texted this to you. Looking at this both ways, I think both teams would be unhappy with this trade, meaning that it's a good trade. Right?
I liked that perspective a lot because it shows it's closer to fair value if both teams are like, well, can we make these smaller adjustments to get it more in my favor? that probably means that it's pretty fair, if not almost dead on, in terms of value.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
I I would go with yes. I would go with yes. I think I would do that trade.
And just for me to kind of elaborate on what I meant by some nitpicks, so obviously Schmaltz, solid player. All right, I don't want to say great. I feel like great should be upper echelon, but he's a very, very good player. We were both at that game. We're 7 points in one game? Ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
Played his best hockey of his entire career last season. 63 games, 23 goals, 36 assists, 59 points. His previous career high was his second season, in Chicago, 17-18. 78 games, 21 goals, 31 assists, 52 points. He's only had two 50-point seasons, only had two 20-goal seasons, and that was by far the best season he's played in Arizona. And of the 3 and a quarter seasons he's played here, he's only had 2 seasons with 45 or more. I know it doesn't sound like a bad thing, but when you're bringing in someone for the top 6, I would assume you want 50-plus points, especially for a guy like Nick Schmaltz, and he got that this year. And again, this is just a random Twitter account, it's a podcast tweeting it out, if his value did go up that much, and again, what he said, 26 years old, 4 years left, I'll take him till he's 30, his best hockey right here, right now, would be when he's entering his prime. You capitalize on that high, because even though I still think, and it is still a possibility, whether it's a 2% or a 92%, that the Coyotes could be way better than we expect next year because the boomer bust potential of young rosters. They either take a few years to get together or they just click and it all goes. But realistically, probably between 3 to 5 years, he doesn't fit the timeline. He simply doesn't. And if we could get, just for reference, our top 10 little mock that we came up with, number 7 would be Savoy. Right after that would be Gauthier, Yurchek, and Nazar. And I'm not going to lie, if it comes down to, for Yurchek, for Gauthier, for Schmaltz, I already see that 32nd, 31st pick overall as being kind of worthless. Because it's basically, you can get good value picks like a Zach Dean last year, but the problem is we need really high-quality talent coming in, young talent into this franchise for this rebuild. Do it right. When Tempe opens, I want to see a couple good playoff runs. I don't need the cup. I want it, but I need a Western Conference Finals appearance. I need a good long playoff run, and if you're telling me I can have Gauthier or Yurchek, I think that greatly improves the Coyotes' likelihood of being able to do that. And it comes down to, I can really like Schmaltz as a person, from what I can tell. Obviously, don't know him personally. I can really like him as a hockey player, but from a business perspective, a business decision, I don't see how this would be a negative for the Coyotes.
Yeah.
Because that pick is just kind of worthless. Unless it was like a small little addendum that Richie had before we started recording. If it was like Timmins, and because of that injury last year, we don't know how he's going to play this year. If it was Timmins and Schmaltz for the 7th overall, I would still take it, because you're getting out from a guy that, again, he could full recovery. He can make me look stupid. He can score 25 goals next year. I don't see it. I'm not going to say I see that, but possible. He can make me look dumb. But if you're getting out from under that and a contract that's going to take a guy till he's 30, and you're getting one of these top 2 or top 10 prospects, I could not complain. And that's kind of the perspective we're going with here.
Yeah. I agree with, once again, everything you said, and it just makes total sense. I think that, switching up the late first for Timmins is worthwhile to me. We traded away Darcy for that first Timmins and then potentially a third if they do win the cup. So, trading away, those assets to me are flippable. I'm sorry. I also forgot to say to everyone.
He's looking for interchangeable.
Yes, interchangeable. I am a sick puppy today, so I'm trying my best. But yeah, I like it. I think it's a good it's a worthwhile venture, I'll say. Is there,
always with the business mind over here.
Is there
about venture capital?
Is there another trade that we have, or?
That
Just
was
that
the
one.
main one, but I actually really want to talk about, before we get into the potential UFAs and RFAs and whatnot, I really want to talk about the Shea Weber and
Mm.
Daddy trade that we just saw. I made a video on it, and my mindset was pretty much what we were talking about. Two of the big trades that we were talking about the Coyotes could look at, and we're just going to run with the assumption at least one of them was on the table. That's what we're going to run with right now.
Yeah.
All right. Both immediately gone. And
Yep.
realistically speaking, how does that change the Coyotes' approach to this offseason? Because, yeah, sure, and I was talking about it in the video. Yes, shameless plugs all around. When it comes to getting Shea Weber off the books, it just goes to LTIR. Meaning, if you want that just, I don't even want to pay like the $3 million and the $1 million per for the last 3 years, I don't even want to deal with it. Okay, so what? We're getting at best a third. Maybe if you want to, let's just say one of my examples was if Riley Smith took a ridiculously team-friendly contract and signed for the same amount that Nolan Patrick's making, if they wanted to just get rid of Nolan Patrick.
Yep.
But that's kind of like the max you're looking for, and I don't think Vegas is going to part with that, so it kind of makes, while it still could be on the table, Dadonov's already, that's not happening. He's going to get flipped by Montreal either at the trade deadline or at the draft. I think they played that pretty well, turning a dead contract into someone they can get assets for. I have to give him credit for that. But with Shea Weber, realistically speaking, that's the Coyotes' only option if they wanted to still get something for taking on that money. And even then, the only value the Coyotes can get out of it would be, okay, we can get like a third-round pick or a Nolan Patrick that's injury-prone, or we can just, hey, we don't want to spend to the salary floor, so we'll just not put him on LTIR. And that's not really worth that much, so it almost entirely takes that off. So, realistically speaking, where else can they look for a bad contract other than maybe Zaitsev? But if they just wanted to get the Zaitsev contract, you can probably get a prospect or a pick. You don't have to involve Schmaltz. We don't have to do that big trade.
Yeah.
So, realistically speaking, where do they go? Like, what should be,
So-
or do you think will be the
So,
direction?
there's a couple I've seen thrown out there. Obviously, James Van Riemsdyk. I think we talked about a week or two ago. I think that one makes a lot of sense. That's for Philadelphia. There's another one. Is it Zucker? I want to say.
Oh yeah, for Pittsburgh, because he's just
Yeah,
hadn't really
five-
seemed to
5
fit
million.
in their system.
Yeah.
Was it
So
2 more years or 1 more year?
one more year. 30 years old.
So-
Jason Zucker.
What can we even get for that? Like a third? Because if it's only a year left, you're not going to get a bunch of Bennings giving us gold with Dylan Gunther. So it's realistically speaking, the value, if it's only 1 year, if it's like $5 million or less, if it's something that can go in LTIR, the value goes down because a lot of the times the teams can just say, "We'll just suck it up," or they can be like, "Hey, we'll just buy out JVR."
Yeah.
So realistically speaking, what can we even get from them for that?
So Zucker is not going to go on LTIR. He's a healthy player. His cap hit is 5.5. I would say that you could at least like bargain a second out of that. I don't know how you couldn't. Oh God, Andrew Ladd. I was forgetting his name there. Andrew Ladd got 2 seconds, and he was somebody that we didn't know whether he was going to be healthy or not. I think it was 2 seconds. Or no, it was a second and a third, but could turn into a second. I don't remember.
Yeah, one was a conditional thing if he plays 4 games this upcoming season.
Yeah,
so next season.
Something like that.
It was a weird stipulation. It was a really weird stipulation.
It definitely will be draft picks. It's not going to be some blow your socks off trade or anything like that. It's yeah, it'll just be like probably a second or a second and a fourth or something like that. But that'll get them out from under their cap struggles because they have quite a few people that they need to sign as well. One of those names being Evgeny Malkin, which
didn't they just get Letang also, which also puts them right up against kind of where they're going.
Yep. Yeah, they have Letang. Yeah. Oh my God, they've got a lot. They've got Nathan Beaulieu, Casey DeSmith in net needs a contract. Ricard Raquel is a UFA. Brian Boyle's a UFA, but he'll probably retire. Evan Rodriguez is a UFA. Didn't he have a good season?
Do you remember when the rumors are going around 2019, 2018, right around there, that Chaika really wanted a Rodriguez, and there was like a trade in the works? Was that ever really a thing, or was that just an off-the-cuff rumor?
I think that was just an off-the-cuff rumor. I didn't know too much about that personally. Oh God, webcam.
I just remember seeing it all over Twitter, and it was like, oh, the Coyotes are working on a trade or showing interest in Evan Rodriguez, and I remember asking who. Like, from what I can tell, he's decent, but he's a bottom sixer, right? We had plenty of that back around 2018-19.
Yeah, Vinny Hirstroza type player, you know.
So it's like we already ended up getting Vinny that year. We didn't need him. It didn't really make any sense, and I was just very confused. So optimistically, let's say with JVR you can get maybe a third. With I think he's on an expiring contract. With Zucker, maybe you can work it up to 2/3, maybe a second and a fourth, like you were saying, because they want to try to go for one more round trip or another couple of years of the old core, and it frees up cap space. And he said Zucker was 2 years or 1 year. I have bad memory.
1 year.
Sundays. 1 year. So I mean, he'll be our Phil Kessel, where he'll be the person everyone fixates on, but he's kind of overrated, and then we'll just put him in the bottom six and deal with it, I guess.
Yeah.
All right, so let's move on to the UFAs and RFAs, since the strategy seems to be, well, let's go for the table scraps that gives just some extra assets, which is fine. I'm not going to be upset if JVR or Zucker comes here for a year. That's fine. But anyway, so we got a pretty sizable list. We already have that amazing quote from GMBA, where he's talking about how you're going to fill these spots, or free agents, the draft, which is a good mindset for a young building team. But you still have to have veterans. You got to have people that are making above league minimum. So let's go with it. First and foremost, Lawson Krause. What does that contract look like, and do they get it done?
I think they do get it done. I don't think they're going to deal with the noise of the contract figuring out until after the draft. So I would guess it'll probably be in the ballpark of maybe $3 million. Maybe. I was saying like 2.
Does that make sense?
I was saying like 2.6, but like the more I think about it, like he wants to be here. He's 24. He put up 20 goals. He's a big physical body. He's everything that Bill Armstrong wants in a player. Like probably 3.5, like somewhere in there. I think if you
20 goals helps your case.
Yeah, I think if you hit 4, that's probably too high, but 3.5 is probably good.
All right, so I'll go 3x3 because I'm assuming he's not going to want to sign an 8-year extension right now. And also, I don't think it'd be a good idea to sign an 8-year extension for a power forward anyway. So I think 3x3 probably sounds about fair.
Yeah, 3x3, max 5 years, probably somewhere in there.
I think max 5 is fine because he said 24, so he'd be 29. That's right around when a lot of power forwards start breaking down anyway. So let's say pessimistically he starts breaking down at 27. We only got to deal with him being in the bottom 6 for a year and a half at suboptimal production, and it's only a $3 million cap hit. You can buy that out, and it's a lower. I don't know. I see like at 5 years it wouldn't be that much of a risk. And anyone watching, that's just me being a pessimist, trying to find like, okay, what's the risk factor? And if the risk factor is relatively low, I think it should be fine.
Yep.
Next up, I can't talk about this. Christian Fischer.
Less than the mill. It's not going to be much. Probably another kick the can down the road year or two. I know that the coach Tournier loves him. So if the coach is going to pound his fist on the desk for him, I'm sure they'll get something done. Is he going to be an everyday NHLer? I don't see it. It's just one of those things, like, we watched him growing up, right? Like, I loved his first year coming in when he came in off the Roadrunners, and he looked dynamic. He looked like the bull in the china shop kind of thing, where like he would just absolutely power his way to the net, and it was very Shane Doan-esque. Like, if you remember, Shane Doan didn't score a lot of pretty goals. He wasn't like a flashy guy. He was like I'm going to muscle my way to the net and I'm going to put it through the damn goalie. And that's what I saw a lot of with Christian Fischer when he first came into the league. And it's just never stuck since. I don't know what happened. If it's the confidence or if it's just getting yo-yoed up and down the lineup or what.
If I had a personal theory, I'm just going to unfortunately say momentum can translate. He's very good as a roadrunner. I think it carried him up for a year and a half or so, and then it just... I remember I made that agreement. I can't say he's bad anymore because he showed up at the town hall meeting. So I could say maybe as just an NHLer, he's just not that good. He ends up being more of a scoring biz nasty. So someone he doesn't have rock hands, but he doesn't have good hands. I've seen pretty easy passes kind of come off his stick. I've also seen some pretty difficult passes and keep it on. So it's kind of, he's decent when it comes to that aspect. I don't really see him as having that good of a pass. He's more of a finisher if he's going to be offensively involved, but he's that power forward kind of bruiser where it's like, yeah, he's biz, but he can score. And when you're only getting between 5 and 10 goals a year, a lot of other people can fill that. And when you look at the power forward role, Nick Ritchie, Liam O'Brien, Lawson Krause, just 3 people off the top of my head, unless you want a power forward on every single line, which I don't really know makes sense as a whole. I mean, short term, Lawson Krause playing with Keller and Schmaltz, it gets results, but you normally see it get results for a few games at a time. So it's, unless you're just looking for depth. So he's going to be your 14th forward, something like that. He, in case of injuries, will have a guy that has NHL experience. I would say a 2x2, or $1 million per year, $2 million total for 2 years is the max here because RFA. And then if he can get some of that game back, you can potentially flip him. 25 years old. He doesn't fit the timeline for... If you're over 24, and even 24 is a bit... It depends on who you are and what you're bringing. It's a little bit negotiable, but 25 and up, you don't fit the timeline. So it's... 2 years, $1 million a year is the max I'm seeing out of it.
Yep. And his game now reminds me a lot of a player that I loved growing up, but he just doesn't do it as well as this player. If he wants to stay in the NHL and he wants to stay on this team, I think he's going to need to start modeling his game closer to like how Boyd Gordon played.
I love Gordo.
Being shut down, defensively responsible, and just blocking shots, taking one for the team. Because I don't see him being a top 9 really at all ever anymore. So if you're gonna be a bottom sixer, like, you need to be defensively responsible, penalty kill, which he does do a little bit of penalty killing, but those are the big ones that he needs to really buckle down on if he wants to be an everyday NHLer.
I completely agree. Also, it would help him tremendously if he can learn how to be effective in the face-off circle. He's a winger. He's a natural winger. This is not a criticism of he's not what he isn't. But if he wants to be able to have more utility, learning how to take face-offs and play the center position would be greatly beneficial to him. Because even if he doesn't play here, someone else can always use a fourth line, a fifth line, we'll call it, for just an extra guy, line center that they can throw in there, throw the body around, get in front of the net. If he adjusts it and learns all that, I think that would be fine. Yeah, here's for the final... Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say one last thing, and Tournier was trying to play him at center a little bit this year, so he's starting to learn.
It was a little bit towards the end, right? Because I saw a couple times. I saw a couple times. So the last RFA forward, Barrett Hayton. I want to bring up his stats specifically. I also kind of want to look at what he did in the AHL. I think Cat Friendly should give me both. Yep, they'll give me both numbers. This one is... I'm almost willing to do something stupid. Because I see Barrett Hayton as a middle 6 guy. And I know it's a really weird position for a guy to be in. You could just say top 9. I'm saying specifically middle 6. He's someone that could be a very good two-way second-line center. He probably ends up slotting on your third line. And that's just kind of where I see him ending up. RFA. So far in his 3 seasons in Arizona, 2019-20, 20 games played, 1 goal, 3 assists, 4 points. The next season, 2020-2021, 14 games, 2 goals, 1 assist, 3 points. And then this year ended up being his career high, 60 games played, 10 goals, career high, 14 points, 24 assists. Career highs all around, but his plus-minus went all the way down to a -8, which in context, not bad, considering how bad this team was defensively throughout at least a third of the season, and that's being generous. So it's plus minus. I think he's defensively responsible, and I like his pass too. He has a very good pass, and when he shows his handles, he had a couple of goals last year where he showed kind of deking and dangling. He still has some of it. It's just not a permanent tool. It's something that he kind of brings out here or there. So that's why I'm saying third line. I'm almost willing to go with. I wouldn't pay more. Think of it as an EA NHL extension. I wouldn't pay him more than like $3 to $4 million a year, but I'd be willing to go 5+ if you can lock him down for a certain cap hit.
I kind of agree. I think that he is obviously going to be my brain is frying. Holy crap. He's going to be a second line center. I think that's where his top projection is going to be. Pulling up his contract right now because I'm pretty sure he's also. So this is actually a perfect projectable, not perfect, but I think this is a projectable that he could realistically be, and that would be for the Edmonton Oilers. That's Ryan Nugent-Hopkins.
I knew you were going to say that. As soon as you brought up a comparable, my first thought was Nuge. How did I know you were going to say that?
And Nuge is signed for $5.1 million. So I think that that's going to be your ballpark that you're going to be looking for. I don't think that he's proved it enough yet to make over $5 million, but I could see kind of like a John Chaika-esque where you throw out a big contract and hope they project into it kind of thing. And like a 5 or 6 year at like $4.6 million.
That sounds about right, as long as he can stay healthy and he keeps improving, because obviously the numbers are improving. It just doesn't feel like it because obviously he's playing more games, but it's also just injuries, weeks at a time where he kind of seems ineffective offensively, and it's like we have to kind of accept he's always going to be a two-way guy. I like his defensive game, but especially I think it's a Dylan Strome effect, though not quite as venomous, where it's because where he was taken, you're like, oh, he should be putting up these numbers. So I can see where there might be apprehension. I can see where there could be criticism. I can actually understand why, at least from my perspective, and I'm assuming we're on the same page here, it feels like he's not producing. But I think if you actually look at the trajectory, if he can stay healthy at the AHL, he's also usually played pretty well consistently. His best season was in 2020, 2021, 26 games, 6 goals, 4 assists, 10 points. Played for him in the playoffs. It's as long as everything keeps going up, I don't mind $4.5 million, 5 or 6 year contract, because especially risk assessment. He's 22. I want to pull the numbers so I can get the exact.
Yes,
he is 22 years old. 6 years, he'd be 28. A lot of teams, especially if you have that first round pedigree, if you flame out one place, will still be willing to take on a contract. So we wanted to give you a shot. Cody Glass comes to mind. Honestly, just as long as you have that pedigree, you'll usually get a couple extra chances. So I think as long as it's below 5.5, I think I wouldn't mind going 5-6 years. And I call it, like I said, an EA NHL contract because, in those video games, I made Barrett Hayden a 35 goal scorer this season. But, that's because you can control it. So I'd be willing to take the risk because it's not as big of a risk as people might think.
I agree. And if you're not going to take that risk, I think that you're looking at like a 2x2 to $2.5 million by 2 years or somewhere in that ballpark.
A solid little bridge deal. Maybe you give him 3 because of the pedigree. Sometimes, usually the going rate for centers is higher, so that's why he'd get paid more than Lawson Krause. Going rates for he was 9th overall. No, I wanted to double check that. I remember he was 5th. So a top 5 pick, that's going to add to your potential cap hit. So that's where I would lead. Let's try to speed it up for the UFA forwards. I think we should be able to, and then defense we can get back into long conversations.
Yes.
Jay Beagle, pass.
Gone.
Let him walk. Don't need him. Louis
Easy.
Erickson, I don't care. Give him
1 year.
one more year if he
Give the
wants
king.
it. If he wants it.
Give the king 1 more year.
I would do the EA NHL video game thing where if we need to get to the cap floor, you just give him whatever it is to get you to the cap floor. But obviously it'd be a 1 year, 1 million.
Hail
minimum.
Hail to the king, baby.
But yeah, no, he was great in my opinion for the locker room. From what I could tell as an outsider, he was great for like fan morale because you need players to be able to kind of rally behind. Whether it's a meme, whether it's just a likable presence, likable veteran. I would love to see 1 more year. Alex Galchenyuk, 28 years old. I want him back. Where does he fit? That's why I think he goes.
That's the biggest problem. That is the biggest problem. I mean, in positive that you don't have like a number 1 center, like could he try to go between Schmaltz and Keller? But the thing is we never saw that. Even this year, we never had a true center this year either. He didn't project up enough to be able to hit that center spot. I don't know if he's just happy being in a top 9 role because that's where he was this year. I do know that he loves playing here at Arizona. He kept his house. It's the reason why he came back, is re-signed with Arizona is because he loves the location. Sorry. I got a cough. Okay, sorry. I didn't want to blow your guys' ears out with that one.
I appreciate that.
I see him coming back probably another year unless he's like, all right, I do want to go pursue a cup. I don't think he will though. Like, unfortunately, this is a guy who has. Man, it was such a shame to see how his career has turned into because I remember seeing him when he put up that 30-goal season with Montreal and he just looked electric, right? And then he just hasn't been able to replicate that back in the NHL, which it's a damn shame. It really is. But yeah, I mean, he'll probably be back if I had to guess, just top 9 player again.
Because he slots in as being able to play any forward position. And I like the versatility because you got an injury on the right wing, he can play there. Injury on the left, yada yada. Yeah, you just want to swap handedness, see how it goes for a game or two, he can do it. He can also play center. I don't know if it's because I just know I've never seen it, so I just kind of subconsciously took it out as a possibility. I don't see him ever playing on the top line again. I've never really seen. I think his first stint, I think they had him playing with Keller or Schmaltz a little bit, but he also got jerked around so many times. Talkett was not the right coach for him to come in for that year. I strongly believe if Turnier would have came in that year, they would have made the playoffs 18-19. If Turnier that would have been his first season. I liked a lot what he did. But looking at it, 60 games, 6 goals, 15 assists, 21 points. That's solid for a third liner. And it all depends on what the kids are going to look like. If you want to give some of these young kids a year in Tucson first, I would be perfectly happy with a 2x2. $2 million a year for 2 years. He's going to be your third line winger. If he can keep producing between 20 and 30 points, I think that is more than acceptable. It also helps kind of add to your cap so that way you can get to the floor a little easier while also having a veteran presence. And worst case scenario, it's $2 million. You can get someone to bite on a $2 million contract if he's producing well, if a kid is just pushing him out of the lineup. Or if he increases the value, it'll look like a value contract. You can get something at a deadline. I would love for him to come back. The problem is with the amount of talent coming in, with the younger kids and also some of the bad contracts they're probably going to eat, I don't see him coming back, but if he does, it would be at least the second or third week of free agency. It wouldn't be immediately as it was starting up.
Yeah, I think so. I think it definitely won't be an immediate one. I don't even think you need $2 million to get that done. I think $1 million for 2 years will get it done. I mean, he signed league min to get on this team, and his team wasn't having cap problems, last year. So I don't think there's much value there. I hope that he can find his way. Excuse me. I think that if he was smart, he would start trying to model his game similar to another player I'm going to keep mentioning on the Coyotes was Anton Vermette. I think if he
Great
tries,
player.
I think if he tries to model his game similar to Vermette, where he's more defensively responsible, maybe works on his face-offs to where he's better face-off draw kind of guy, and then that was Anton Vermette's greatest asset was that he was jack of all jack of all spades.
Jack of all trades.
Jack of all trades. There you go. My brain is done. So, good luck with that one.
Well, 1.5. I don't know. I'm also. I guess I'm kind of looking out for the dude. Like I see he works hard, and it wouldn't affect the cap too much. Give him a little bit more, but I can see $1 million getting it done. Maybe $1.5 million. All right, Boko Amama. I don't think he re-signs because of the overabundance in power forwards that we have.
Yeah, I agree. I like him. I liked that he came up. Maybe he appreciated the love that he got from the Coyotes fans. I don't know if you were watching that game when he came up and scored his first goal. Not in the first game, but the second game when he scored his first goal. The fans were electric. They loved him a lot. They were, a lot of them were standing on their feet. Not a lot. Like, quite a few people were standing on their feet, standing up and cheering for his first goal. They were, really trying to give him a warm welcome into the NHL. So maybe that'll stick. Maybe not. One of those ones, easy come, easy go. If he stays, awesome. I'd love to see him bounce between the AHL and the NHL. If not, if he thinks he's got a shot somewhere else, then let the birdie fly.
I would much prefer. I don't know if this is controversial or not, but I don't care. I'd much prefer to just find a way to move on from Liam O'Brien. I don't like how they signed him for those 2 years and give Amama the same contract because I think Amama is just better. So I'd rather have Amama in the spot than O'Brien, but they already extended O'Brien 2 years. It kind of already locks up that spot. I think optimistically, from the Coyotes fan perspective, he at least signs a 1 year with the Roadrunners. But with how he made a pretty good impression, there's going to be at least one other team that'll give him a flyer, and he might actually end up making a consistent fourth line spot somewhere else. So he's probably gone. Well, let's save the best for last. So Anton Roussel, he's gone.
What? You're missing one.
I know we're saving him for last. We're
saving the best for last. Oh, okay. Gotcha. I've got sick brain. Sorry.
So with Roussel, I'm going to agree with what Canucks fans are telling me. I did like some of his defensive aspect. Defensively responsible, solid player. He played in 53 games, and I barely felt his presence. So it's like, he's kind of one of those quiet kind of guys. Him and Jay Beagle. When they were both injured, because they both were injured throughout the season, I didn't even notice they were gone until there's a lot of young kids on this team right now. So I don't see a context where he comes back. Yeah, I also don't even know if Roussel gets a contract. I don't know if Beagle gets a contract somewhere. He's 36.
Don't think Beagle does, but reminded me a lot. Anton Roussel reminded me a lot of Daniel Winnick.
Winnick could have been really good here.
Yeah.
I know that one kind of flamed up pretty quick. All right. Philip Joseph Kessel. Ironically, I just had hot dogs before we recorded this. I was catching up on D-backs notes and eating hot dogs.
There you go.
He's... Okay. There is a 2% chance in my mind he comes back here for two reasons. First and foremost, at 34 years of age with, unfortunately, whether it's fair or not, I'm assuming it's fair because how consistent it is, his reputation with that Iron Man streak, I don't see more than maybe two other teams being willing to give him a 1 year contract. And even then, how many could actually guarantee to make him an everyday guy so he can break that record? So and a lot of them don't want that Philadelphia bad PR. So part of me is like, you know what? In a weird way, he probably re-signs for like $1 or $2 million for the 1 year here, and then gets dealt at the deadline somewhere else with a much more manageable contract. Yeah. Part of me thinks that on top of that, he's been here for three seasons now, so he could be considered like a fan type guy that a little bit of continuity. a decent send off for a guy kind of like for his first year at ASU, like coming full circle, sure. But those are the only two reasons I would see him coming back, and even then, that's what, a 6% chance, maybe 12 at the highest end. He's gone.
Yeah, I'd put it about a 2% chance. I don't think he's coming back. I don't think he finds much value here, aside from the Ironman streak, and I'm sure there'll be some team that'll be willing to take on the Ironman hit. Just names to throw out there. I think the Nashville Predators might be able to. Yeah, I think that he'll try his best somewhere else.
Maybe Toronto.
No.
Freaks out. Yeah,
No.
Go back home.
No, he's not going back to Toronto. I can guarantee you that. I can guarantee you on that one.
Is it, now that we're on Toronto, just for a moment, is it cap circumvention if we acquire Tavares and then send him back with a 50% retainment and a first-round pick so we can get a first-round pick? Because I'm willing to break rules for a first-round pick.
I believe that is indeed cap circumvention. Yes.
All right. Defenders. We got two restricted free agents. 24-year-old Kyle Capobianco. I'm going to be blunt. I'll lead this off since he is one of my favorite players on the team, and I've been high on this guy since I started AZ Sports Guy, started getting back into the team, 18, 19.
Yeah.
Optimistically, he'll get a 2-year contract at 1.5, if that, probably 1.25, just to make him feel a little better. But my gut, because Kolyachonok, I don't think is that good. He's a decent defender, not a bad young player whatsoever. Kolyachonok found himself kicking Capobianco out of the lineup quite a bit, and it took a couple of injuries for Cap to get back in. That's a little concerning. Now, it could have just been, hey, we're going to bring Cap back next year anyway. We'll have extra roster space, so we're just going to see what the kids can do this year. It's entirely possible as the mindset behind it. But also, to an extent, a very realistic extent, Kyle kind of played himself out of a consistent top 6 role on that defense, and it's like, optimistically, he's probably the 7th defenseman. Now, with a couple of the moves, he could earn his way back on the second pairing if he has a very good offseason and gets his game right. So, optimistically, 2 years, 1.25 a year. Pessimistically, they'll extend him 1 year at league minimum and say this is your last shot to prove you deserve a spot on the team.
Yep. One more contract. If he cannot become a regular, then he is walking next season as an unrestricted free agent because they will not re-sign him. They may not re-sign him this year. I'll be real with you. It's a shame. Once again, the Coyotes are a walking travesty if you listen to anything in Canada. So let's not kid ourselves on this one. But yeah, I loved what I saw with him down in the AHL. He looked like he was going to be very dominant, and he has not been able to stick. And it is just a real damn shame.
And the thing is, and I can make the valid arguments all day about how they very much babied him his first 8 games in the league, when it was like, hey, we only want you playing very limited minutes on the third line because Take doesn't like having young players in the lineup unless you're like blowing everyone away. Mm-hmm. We could argue all day about not having enough time the season prior, not last season, the season before, to adjust to the NHL game. We can make any arguments, or I can make any arguments I want. The problem is, when he finally got that opportunity, he just could not consistently rise to it. He had some stretches. He was moving the puck, especially towards the end of the season. He was moving it pretty well. If that is any indication, I think that raises the likelihood of them re-signing him. But that doesn't mean they're going to do it for 2-3 years. It would be, hey, we'll bring you back for a year and see. That's why I said optimistically it's a 2-year contract. Realistically, it's probably a 1 year. Yeah. And it's, like I said, he has to have a big offseason. I think he can do it. I have faith in the kid, but he needs to prove it. Because once you hit 24, 25, 26, you're not a prospect anymore. You're a project. So he's right at that line where he has to show it. All right.
Yeah, and D-men take a little bit longer to grow, right? Like, the clock's not up for Bianco by any means of the stretch. You know, I still think that he'll find another contract in the NHL. I just don't know if his time here will be.
Which would suck because I want him to be like literally in that 18-19 season. I'm like, dude, he can, if everything obviously trajectory needs to keep going up, he can slot in and be the next OEL. Like I genuinely believe that, and obviously this year for a while he was producing more than OEL was in Vancouver, but that didn't last all that long. All right, another 24-year-old defenseman, RFA Cam Dineen. I'm gonna be real with you. They probably sign him 1 year league minimum and just, hey, we'll keep you as depth or we'll flip you. Is kind of that's the vibe I get because Cam Dineen is solid, but he's a Kolyachonok type where it's like, yeah, he's pretty decent defensively. He can add some offensive. It's not too much, but he can. I know for Tucson he added a little bit, but I just don't see him sticking at the NHL level, unfortunately.
NHL
and it's like
guy,
I don't think he's a bad player, you know.
Yeah,
so it's just sucks.
Yep.
So let's say 1 year league min, if they bring him back. All right, Anton Strawman gone. He's not coming back.
I think he will.
That.
I think
you think he'll come back here?
Yes. I don't think there's
hot
going to
take.
be.
Let's go for it.
So I don't think there's much left for him in his career at 35 years old. I don't think really very many NHL teams are going to be looking to sign him. Maybe he does go back to, I think he's Swedish. Maybe he goes back to the SHL and plays over there. But I think that there's not going to be much NHL talk for him. And I think that he showed a lot of that caring, nurtured kind of attitude for an older player, which is kind of what you need in order to make your young group more successful. I see him being essentially the person who may reclamate Victor Soderstrom's career, being Swede.
I think Soderstrom's a whole different topic, but I think Strawman did some pretty good things for him defensively. I just still think offensively, unless he shows me something in the next 2 years, I think Soderstrom's just going to be a defensive defenseman, which is fine. You need that. I just wish they wouldn't have wasted the assets that high. For
You tell me you think that we should have taken Cole Caulfield over?
Oh, little goal Caulfield, pair him up with Connor Garland, and I'm just saying. If you would have had that, and I think that would have been the same year we would have still had Galchenyuk, or it might have been 1 year later, I think the line would have been pretty fun, even if it wouldn't. But still, the coaching, the system, the timing wasn't right, and that's what sucks because we missed out on so many things because of bad timing. Strawman, here's what my gut says, because I think it was him that said this. I wanted to show that I'm still an NHLer, and I feel I've shown that. He has. He had a good season last year, mostly as a mentor role, mostly as he was a good defensive guy. He moved the puck around pretty well, too. I wouldn't call him a power play quarterback anymore, but he did move the puck well, so I like that aspect of his game. 35 years old, I can see a league minimum in Toronto because they need another right-hand shot. You can always use an extra right-hand shot. Toronto usually loves grabbing veterans, especially to try to help push that core forward. I would not be surprised 1 year league min in Toronto.
All right. Hot take.
All right. Goaltending, Harry Sateri, I don't see him re-signing.
No. Don't think so. I don't even think he'll be in the NHL. I think he'll probably skedaddle back off to the European League.
I mean, it's possible Toronto can give him another look in training camp, but it would be a PTO just to see if he hung. So let's talk about Dmitry Yaskin. I had a lot of faith in him. He got injured relatively early on in the season. He played a total of 12 games, had 1 assist.
Yeah.
I know GMBA was like, we're not expecting 20 goals, but I'm like, he can get anywhere between 15 and 20 if he slots in on a nice top 6 role here. He just didn't. Then he got hurt. Do you see a possibility of them giving him another 1 year? I really don't, but do you see a possibility?
They gave him $3 million to be sitting on the bus. Like, I don't think they're going to sign him.
All right, let's move on to some minor league guys. We got 4 to talk about. How familiar are you with the minor leaguers?
I'm pretty familiar, yeah.
All right, 26-year-old Hudson Fasching. He's a UFA Group 6.
Probably stays.
If Tucson's history is anything, they made Dakota Mermis the captain, and then he immediately walked in free agency. Same thing's happening with Fasching. I think he'll walk, and I think at 26 he's dead set on. I need to find a bottom 6 role somewhere, and he'll look for a team that might have some bottom 6 lacking depth. I mean, obviously nothing against Buffalo because they've turned a decent amount around with their depth. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes to Buffalo on a PTO and steals like a 4th line spot. I wouldn't be surprised, but I don't see him coming back. Blake Spears, the last remnant of that Taylor Hall trade, the shirt that I'm wearing right now. You can see the Halsey. He's gone. I know he spent some time injured. I know significant time. He's never really looked good in Tucson. He's had some spurts here or there, but I'll go ahead and bring up his stats just so I can back something up. All right, so 25 years old for Tucson, his first year in 1920. 32 games, 4 goals, 5 assists, 9 points. And then he ended up coming up to the Coyotes this year for 2 games, did nothing. For Tucson, 52 games, 2 goals, 3 assists, 5 points. Almost anyone else you can slot in for a decent veteran spot on Tucson. I don't see him coming back.
I don't see it either. I don't see... You know, if you want to look at reasons why the Tucson Roadrunners were not very good this year, I'd be pointing at Blake Spears, so I don't see him coming
52
back.
games is not nothing. And the fact that he had no impact just at all.
Yeah.
Nothing against him as a person. Again, whenever we speak critically of players, it's never as people, it's just as an asset, as a player on the team, what we see, and I just don't see value here.
Yep.
All right, defenseman. I actually thought this was just a random Tucson signee because he popped up on the roster. I don't pay too much attention, but Cole Holtz. He's a RFA. He was originally drafted by LA, and last year for the Roadrunners, 54 games, 7 goals, 10 assists, 17 points as a defenseman with a negative 17 plus minus. I know at least a little bit he was playing some special teams. Seems like he can move the puck around a bit. 24 years old. Do you just let him walk?
I honestly don't know too much about him. Yeah, it's just one of those things that I'll be honest, I didn't pay much attention to Holtz, so I didn't look too much into his game. Probably walks. I mean, with the influx of second round picks that we have, I see a lot of this depth just getting filled within the year, so I think he's probably gone. Unless there's something that they see that they really like, but I don't.
They could tender him an RFA offer, a 1-year extension, and just see, because he's 24, but that's kind of optimistic for me. It's like, not bad. I don't have anything bad to say about him. I also don't have much good to... It's just kind of meh. So, nothing against you, Cole. I re-sign for 1 year if you'd like. That's all I got. All right, and finally, want to have some fun with this one? I think you want to have some fun with this one.
Oh, God.
Aiden Hill. Sorry, Josef Kozanash.
Oh.
RFA, 24 years old. It literally, especially if you look at how the production was, like, at the AHL level, the numbers were pretty comparable. It was just, hey, we know Seattle won't take Kozanash. They might take Hill, so they got something for him. I think it was him and a second-round pick. You got to pick for it. Yep. So we won the trade because of the pick, but Kozanash...
I mean, Hill hasn't looked very good. Hill hasn't looked very good anyways. So
last year in 22 games, a 4.46, 8.55 save percentage in the A. I know the A lacks a bit of defensive cohesion across the board, especially in our little Pacific division. I don't know how the save percentage is that bad. Then he played 2 games for the Coyotes, 2.56, 9.14. So he put up better numbers than Ivan Prozotov, surprisingly. but he's also a year older, so a little further along. Anson Thornton, David Tendek, Ivan Prosvetov, whoever the hell we draft this year, I don't see space for him. I mean, here's what I think's going to happen. I think Prosy has a good training camp. He probably gets the backup job, so that way Thornton can get full playing time in Tucson, because I think he'd be eligible to play in Tucson, or he might have to wait one more year. So then you let David Tendek play, and then whoever you draft, you can draft a guy that's eligible to go to the A, and you have him playing a tandem with Tendek, and then Tucson can sign whoever else they need if injuries happen.
Yep.
It could be Kozanash. Tucson themselves can sign, because the AHL teams can also sign their own contracts, and there's no roster limits or anything. So I don't see value in tendering an RFA offer. I don't see value in extending him. It's a sad case because Kozanash could have taken the opportunity, been the full-time backup here, and been good. Then this little asshole named Karel Vejmelka showed up in training camp, and this other asshole named Anson Thornton showed up in training camp, and it's almost like he never had a chance because the influx in good goaltending talent that we ended up getting. Where's his space? Where's his spot?
Yeah. I agree. I think Kozanash is probably gone. I think he's going to be even in the AHL. I think he'll probably go back to some European league.
Yeah, he's Czech, so he'll go to probably like Liga or something. He'll play in Europe next year is what I'm thinking. Unless a team is going to look at those 2 games he played in Arizona and say he still can do something, and like maybe Nashville, because they had some injuries and some of their backup goalies didn't look ready, maybe they give him a 1-year, 2-way contract. Maybe.
Yeah. Maybe.
And it's what they also have Askarov in their system. He could be ready to come up next year. I don't see a spot. Nothing against him. I don't see a spot for him.
Yeah, I think he's good. He's going off. He's going somewhere. Czechia, or I don't think he's a North American next year.
All right, so pretty much as we tried to break it down logically, I think GMBA said it best, where the draft, because that's where a lot, and he even said like he could see them using all of those picks they have, those top 45 picks, and I wouldn't be offended if they did. I would not have a problem at all if they did. And like I said, just because we're open to trading Schmaltz does not mean we want him gone. It's just kind of, if you look at it, this last offseason was the start. So obviously last offseason, like, historically has to be the most important step or whatever. Mm-hmm. This draft is going to be the most vital for the Coyotes' long-term future. Because if they, out of those, it's six picks in the top 45. If they can hit on 3, and I mean hit, not just make contact, I mean hit on 3 of those ridiculously valuable picks, that's an entire offensive line. That is a defensive pairing with an extra winger or center. That is a forward, defenseman, and goaltender. That is whatever combination thereof.
Yep.
That just interjects life into this team. And they could be regulars. It could be the next, if we're going alternate timeline here, if it worked out, it could be the next, like, Hansel, Bodker, Mueller, like, group of people coming up in this system where it's like, that's going to be our future. You just don't want it to end up like Mueller.
I was about to say, as long as it doesn't end up the way that pairing, that
basically, if we can get the universe where Mueller worked, Kyle Turris worked and stuck around here, and Blake Wheeler didn't refuse to sign. If we can just get that here, I think we're fine.
And then also Bodker's spleen not exploding mid-season.
Yeah, wasn't that 2010 or 2011? Didn't it literally derail his entire season, and he was having a really good year?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, wasn't he on pace for 30? I could be mistaken, but he was on pace for like 30 goals that year, wasn't
Yeah, he was on pace for like a good amount. I don't remember the exact number, but he had a really good showing and looked really good. And that flipping spleen explodes. It's like, ugh.
Hate that. Hate when that happens.
Yeah, I hate when my spleens explode.
His spleen just. We're not joking at Bodker's expense, by the way. We're joking about the concept of. We just have this thing that could just rupture.
Yep. Unfortunately.
Would you have liked? I guess this could be a stinger. This could be a little short 5-minute segment. Would you have liked my concept going into this season of them potentially bringing back some of the older faces like Turris or Bodker, like for the farewell to Glendale? Would you have been cool with that, or
no? Let it die.
You're not a big fan of nostalgia?
No, let it die.
So I take it you weren't a big fan when JR came back for a year.
No, let it die. I hate that we're bringing the band back together mentality. It's no, let it die.
I don't know. I like the concept of like, hey, one last go around for like fan favorites, or giving Kyle Turris a shot to like be in a role where he would have actually provided value, or something like that. But then again, he couldn't even stick at Edmonton. I think he got waived.
I think so.
20 games
like
in or something like that. But it's like I like those concepts. I also like reclamation projects. I like being able to have those cool little things. And on top of that, the Coyotes are surprisingly Arizona sports in general. I really should do a video on it. We're really high in like bringing players back, like players wanting to come back. Even Galchenyuk and Vermette, two separate examples from this episode alone. It's a thing that just. You can't tell me there's not an appeal to the market if people aren't constantly wanting to come back.
Yeah.
But that's all we got this week.
Yes.
Hey, we actually got a relatively shorter episode this time. We finally hit about the hour mark.
All it took me was on the
Richie
brink
will
of death.
Appreciate that. He's just a little dead right now.
I tried my best, people. I hope you know I did this for all of you.
How did you like Jurassic World?
It was good. I liked Jurassic World a lot, actually. And no, I did not take my sick to the Jurassic World. This was like a week ago or whatever. Yeah,
sorry, what?
I was gonna say watched it, loved it. Felt real good on my body. I enjoyed it.
I felt it was a little long in the second act. I kind of agree with like Critical Drinker, where it felt like two movies thrown into one in some regards. But it was cool to see the band back together, like the old cast. Also get to meet the new cast and wrapping up as many stories as possible. I liked it. I thought it was a good send off. Stop making these movies. Like, I love the Jurassic movies, but I feel like this is the point where it's like, okay, we did everything. Just stop. Yep. We're good. This is. I don't know why a lot of people hated it. I don't know why critics didn't like it, but I liked it. I think we should stop making Jurassic movies, though.
Yeah, I thought it was good, and then I really liked that they were able to actually tie off the clone story arc, because it was kind of like, what the F is going on here? But yeah, they did it. They did pretty good with it. I mean, I could see how some people thought it was slow, but I mean, go watch the first Jurassic Park. Like, I'm sorry to tell you, but it's not as fairy tale as you remember it to be. Like, it was also pretty slow. Like, that's the point.
I will debate you right there. I watch it relatively frequently. I think it's a masterpiece in like every aspect, including pacing. But that's also, I'm biased. I'm hardcore. I love dinosaurs. I think Jurassic Park is one of the greatest movies ever made. Huge biases. I will admit to that every day of the week.
Yeah, I liked it. There was another movie I saw too. I'm trying to remember, what was the other ones that came out. Oh, Top Gun. I saw Top Gun. I
heard that was really good. Was it good?
Top Gun was excellent. I really liked it, and this is coming from somebody who loves airplanes. So they did it a good service for that one. They did it right. Has to be one of the best playing movies I think I've ever seen.
Did you ever see Morbius?
No.
The goat, the actual goat.
No.
Did you sign the petition to get them to put it back in theaters a third time so it can flop again?
No. I can't believe, what is it, Sony that's doing that? That's just embarrassing.
They brought it back, and I told Elena, like, let's go. I want to go see it. Like, screw it. Let's go for the meme. And then she's like, she refused, and then, like, I don't remember what we ended up doing that night. I ended up finding something else to do with our time. Then it, like, we found out it flopped again, and I felt kind of bad because I actually wanted to see it again.
Yeah.
But hey, that's life, you know.
Yeah. I liked the TikTok of the actor who played Morbius. God, I always forget his name. He also
Jared
played
Leto?
Joker. Yeah. He had a TikTok where he's like, "Oh, look at this!" And like the phone pans around, and he's like, "Oh, whoa!" And he drops it down. It's like a script, and it says Morbius 2. It's Morbin time. I was like, "Oh my god!" At least he's like,
"Oh, he's trying to kill the meme." It's like, no. When you cringe, it makes the meme richer.
yeah.
Anyway, this isn't a movie podcast. I wouldn't mind a movie podcast. We're doing a hockey podcast. I had to bring attention to the $30 I wasted at Walmart, and I would do it again. And I probably will do it again just to keep one in the box, because I'm a psychopath. I am an actual psychopath. Plus, I had Giganotosaurus. I need to get that, too.
There you go. All right, well, I'm going to cut you off there, and I'm going to go cry myself back to sleep. So
you enjoy a nice nap. This has been episode 13
yes,
of the Desert Moon Hockey Podcast, featuring two virgin nerds talking about their dinosaur and plane movies.
yes. I also forgot to say at the beginning, and I'll say here at the end, do the subscribe, the like, and all that stuff, please. Can you
like, comment, favorite, and subscribe?
please just do it for me? I'm kind of ill. I'd appreciate it.
He's sick of this today.
A lot of people say, it's overrated, but it actually really does help us out. So if you could, I'd appreciate it. Thank you so much.
That being out of the way,
it's Morbin time.
AZ Sports Guy. No one knows who I am. And I might have my name recognized by Paul Bissonnette in like 2 months. And I will leave it off at that. I am the AZ Sports Guy. This is the Desert Moon Hockey Podcast. Like, comment, favorite, subscribe, all that weird algorithm-friendly stuff. And I'm going to go look at my dinosaurs.
Morbin time.